Rise. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do 13.6, the law of cosines. So our objective is to use the law of cosines to solve non-right triangles if we're given side angle side or side side side. And then we're going to learn another formula to calculate the area of a triangle. All right, so the law of cosines, and I will give you this on a quiz or exam. The formulas are a little bit entertaining. All right, so I have a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of a. B squared is a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine b. And then c squared is a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine c. And you use whichever one fits the best for your triangle. So the biggest mistake in this particular section is calculator error. So we're going to try to show you how to help that not happen. So our first example, okay, so here is a triangle, okay. It's always helpful to label your triangles because it helps you to not make mistakes when you substitute values in. I'm going to know that angle B is 34 degrees. This is a little b, not a 6. This is 11, and this is 14. And I want to solve the triangle. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find angle B, or sorry, side B. So I'm going to use the formula b squared is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine b. It's always a good idea with the law of cosine formulas to solve for what you need first before you substitute in numbers, because it's really easy to make mistakes. So if I need to find b, I'm going to take the square root of this mess, so a squared plus c squared minus 2ac, and then cosine of b. Now I'm going to substitute in all of the numbers. So a is 11 squared, c is 14 squared, minus 2 times 11 times 14, cosine of the included angle, 34 degrees. All right, let me get out my handy-dandy grapher. Most of the time these are going to be done in degrees, so you want to check your mode first to make sure that it is in degrees. Maybe it'll focus, okay? All right, so then let's do this math. So I'm going to do the square root, and then I'm going to do 11 squared plus 14 squared minus 2 times 11 times 14 cosine of the included angle. Close that parentheses, close the square root, and I get that b is equal to 7.852, and remember we're always using 3 decimal places. All right, so now I'm going to solve for angle A, and I'll do it kind of up here. So I know that a squared is b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of A. The goal is to solve for angle A, so I'm going to rewrite. So I'm going to subtract and subtract. So I get a squared minus b squared minus c squared is a negative 2bc cosine A. To solve for A, I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 2bc. Nothing cancels because everything is being added, so I can't reduce this mess. Okay? So now those guys do, though. So I get the cosine of A is equal to a squared minus b squared minus c squared, or a negative 2bc. To be able to solve for A, okay, I can't divide by the cosine, but I can take the inverse cosine of this mess. So a squared minus b squared c squared over a negative 2bc. All right. Gosh, I can't seem to get that to show. Let me see if I can push it up just a little bit more. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute these values into this formula. So here's my inverse cosine, okay? A squared, A is 11 squared, B squared we found to be the 7.852 squared, and if you're not using 3 decimal places, you can generate enough error to get the problem wrong. So make sure you're using 3 decimal places. My C value was minus 14 squared, and then it's going to be over a negative 2 times b, which was a 7.852, and our c, which was the 14. So now I have to get that mess in my calculator, okay? So let me show you how I would do it, okay? I'm not going to do any of this math. I'm going to let my calculator do all of it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is the inverse cosine, and I'm going to open another parentheses for the numerator. So 11 squared minus 7.852 squared minus 14 squared. Close the numerator, divided by open for the numerator, negative 2 times 7.852 times 14. Close for the denominator, close for the inverse cosine. Okay, so take a moment and look at that. Your parentheses are huge. Okay, and then I get that, what angle are we solving for? A. A is equal to 51.570 degrees. Alrighty. So oftentimes what happens when you do this particular method, you will get an error message in your calculator. So there's a couple of different things you should always check. Number one, is your calculator in degrees? Because if it's in radians, you'll get a weird answer. Number two, is your entire numerator in parentheses and your entire denominator in parentheses? And then you want to be really careful with your minus sign. This is going to be negative and this is going to be negative. The two negatives cancel. So if you forget the negative sign, you'll also get a weird answer. So all I have left to find is angle C. So I'm going to do that by subtracting from 180. So I had 34 degrees, and then I had the 51.570, and when I do that, I get that angle C is 94.43 degrees. So then in your answer column, you would put these three answers. Okay, the order is kind of irrelevant as long as you identify your answers well and include your units. So angles have to have degrees, and then sides, if they don't give you anything, it doesn't have a degree. All right. First problem down. So the inverse cosine is actually pretty nice, but the formula is a little bit tedious to use. So the next problem says solve triangle ABC, and we're going to know that A is 12, B is 27, and C is equal to 20. So in the beginning, I said that we were going to use either side angle side or side side side. So this is the case for side side side. Again, I'm just going to draw a diagram. It doesn't have to be pretty. There's my A, B, and C. Little a is 12, little b is 27, and little c is 20. So now I'm going to start solving. It doesn't matter which angle you choose to solve for first, so I'm going to solve for A. My formula, a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine A. I'm going to solve that formula for A. So I'm going to manipulate this. So I get a squared minus b squared minus c squared divided by a negative 2bc is equal to the cosine of A. And again, I can't divide by the cosine, so I'm going to do A is equal to the inverse cosine of a squared minus b squared minus c squared over a negative 2bc. On the quizzes or tests, I will not give you the manipulated formula. You will have to be able to do that yourself. All I will give you is the primary formula for the law of cosines. So now I'm going to substitute in all the numbers that I know. So I'm going to get A is equal to the inverse cosine. A squared is 12 squared minus b is 27 squared minus 20 squared over a negative 2 times b times c, 20, and then I'm going to close. So I'm going to show you how I do that in my calculator one more time. Okay, so I'm going to do the inverse cosine, open 1 for the numerator, so I'm going to do 12 squared minus 27 squared minus 20 squared, open 1 for the denominator, negative 2 times 27 times 20, close, close, go. And I got that A is equal to 24.212 degrees. Okay? Alrighty. So at this point, it's possible to switch to do the law of sines. But I'm actually not going to do that on this one. I'm going to do the law of cosines again, just so you get more practice. Because now I know one of the two angles and then the other three sides, so I could switch to the law of sines. But I'm going to finish this one with the law of cosines. So now I'm going to find angle B. So the formula that I'm going to manipulate, a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine b. So I'm going to save a step. I'm going to say b is equal to the inverse cosine because I manipulate all of the equations the same way. So it's going to be b squared minus a squared minus c squared negative 2ac. Now I'm going to substitute in all of my numbers. Okay, so a squared is b squared, where's b? B is 27 squared minus 12 squared minus 20 squared over 2 times a, which is 12, times c, which is 20. Okay, do that math in my calculator. Okay, and I'm going to assume that you can do that. You should try it because that's the hardest part about the law of cosines. And I get that b is 112.670. Because I didn't know any of the angles, now I have to find angle C. I'm going to find it by subtracting, so 180 minus the 24.212 and minus the 112.67, and I get that angle C is 43.118 degrees. So then I would just concisely put all of my answers in one place, 670. We found angle C to be 43.118 degrees, and there are the three answers that you would write in your answer column. All right, so the next example that I'm going to do for you, I'm actually going to switch to the law of cosines, okay? Or sorry, the law of sines in the middle of the problem. So it says solve the triangle, okay? All right, I know that little a is equal to 8, little c is equal to 10, and angle B is 48 degrees. So like always, I'm just going to sketch my diagram because it's easier if you can see what you're working with. Little a is 8, little c is 10, and B is 48 degrees. All right? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find side B, because once I find B, then I can switch to the law of sines. So I'm going to say b squared is a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine of the included angle. So b is the square root of that mess. So a squared, c squared, 2ac cosine of the included angle. Now I'm going to substitute in my numbers. So a is 8 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 8 times 10 times the cosine of 48 degrees. And when I do that math in my calculator, I get that B is 7.546. Okay? All right. So now that I know B, now I can switch and do the law of sines. Okay? All righty. So I'm going to solve for angle A. So I'm going to say the sine of A is the 8. And then I'm going to use angle B, since it's the only other angle that I know, as the sine of 48 is to the 7.546. I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to get 7.546 sine A is 8 sine 48. Divide by the 7.546. So I get the sine of A is 8 sine 48 divided by 7.546. And remember, I can't divide by sine, so I have to do the inverse sine. And then I'm just going to put that whole mess in my calculator. So 8 sine 48 over 7.546. Now, I can tell you, if you do this math for the law of sines and the law of cosines in a lot of little steps, you will create a significant amount of error. The best way to manage these problems is to do your calculator once and to do it at the very end. All right, so now I know that A, if I do that math on my grapher, I'm going to get 9.86. There we go. So now I know two of the angles, and I was only missing the one side. So I can find angle C by subtracting from 180. So I can subtract the 48, and I can subtract the 51.986 that I found. And I get that angle C is 80.014 degrees. Now I can write all of my answers in one concise location. So C is 80.014 degrees. little b is 7.546. And those would be my 3 solutions to solving that triangle. All right. Just like in the Law of Sines section, now we have another new area formula, okay? So now we're going to do a formula called Heron's area formula. And the only time that you can use this particular formula is if you're given side, 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 okay? So here's the formula. It says the area of a triangle is equal to the square root of s times s minus a, s minus b, and s minus c. And s is called a semi-perimeter, which means basically that it is the sum of the sides divided by 2. Okay, so that's why it's called a semi-perimeter. So it's actually a super easy formula to use. Again, I'm going to do most of the work in my calculator. I do need to always calculate s first. All right. So let me give us an example of this one. We'll do a couple. It's a really nice little area formula. They all say, the 2 examples are going to say, find the area. All right, so in the first triangle, you're given this information. So here's A, B, and C. You know that this side is 170 yards. I'll put the units down there. This is 240 yards. And then this is 350 yards. Well, since I was given side, 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 I can use Heron's formula, which says that the area of a triangle is the square root of s, s minus a, s minus b, and s minus c. So the first thing I'm going to do is calculate s. So it's going to be the sum of the 3 sides, 240 plus 350, and then divide all that by 2. When I do that math in my calculator, I get that my s is 380 yards. Okay, so that's considered my semi-perimeter. Now I can find the area. So the area is the square root of s, which is 380, times 380 minus each of the sides. So 380 minus 240 and 380 minus 350. Now I don't do any of this little math by hand. I do it all in my calculator. So let me show you how I would do that. If I can scoot stuff over a little bit. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do the square root, and I'm going to do 380 times 380 minus 170 times 380 minus 240 times 380 minus 350, close, close. Okay, so notice that I just entered what I had written down. I hit enter, and I get that my area of the triangle is 18307.376 yards squared. So both of our new area formulas are actually really easy to use. Okay. All right, one more example of these, and then I'll give you your problems. Again, it says find the area. Alrighty, so this time they're just going to tell you that A is 8, B is 11, and C is equal to 5. Alright, I still think it's a good idea to draw pictures because I think the more you can see, the less likely you are to make mistakes. So I know that A is 8, little b is 11, little c is 5. I need to find my semi-perimeter, so it's going to be 11 plus 8 plus 5 divided by 2. When I do that math in my calculator, I get that my semi-perimeter is 12. So now I'm actually ready to calculate my area. I'm going to rewrite the formula. So it's s times s minus a times s minus b times s minus c. Those are all under your radicand, weird word. Okay, so now I'm just going to do that math. So it's going to be the square root of 12 times 12 minus 8 times 12 minus 11 and times 12 minus 5. And again, I would do that all in one fell swoop on my calculator, and when I did that on mine, I got 18.330 units squared. Since they didn't tell me what the units were, I'm just going to stick in units squared. Alrighty, let me give you your problems. Alrighty, so remember again, the biggest issue on these is using your calculator. So the first two problems say solve the triangle. Remember, that means find everything that's missing, angles, sides, and I would encourage you to sketch them. Number 1, A is going to equal 14, B is going to equal 16, and C is going to equal 9. The second triangle, A is going to equal 155 centimeters, B is going to equal 316 centimeters, and C is going to equal 197 centimeters. Okay? So you need to solve both of those triangles, which means you need to find all three angles. I would encourage you to practice the law of cosines and not just switch to the law of sines to make sure that you can use that formula well in your calculator. All right, your last two problems say calculate the area of the triangle using Heron's formula. And again, I would give you this formula on a quiz or test. All right, number 3, I know that A is equal to 4, B is equal to 9, and C is 7. And then my last one, I know that A is 15, B is equal to 23, and C is equal to 12. So again, it's also nice to draw your diagrams because it helps make less mistakes. Good luck with your problems, and I will see you tomorrow.